In the yoga community, volunteers are called sevadars. For many yogis, volunteer service is a big part of spiritual practice. For 2 years, I worked as a sevadar for a yoga teacher, as his content writer. He did not fit the contemporary Western image of a yoga teacher. He had a long dark beard and wore a saffron robe and turban. At yoga festivals, his workshops were as popular as they were unusual. For instance, in class, we held our hands in a pyramid mudra in front of our foreheads, and we chanted a goddess mantra, Siddhi, very loudly. The effect stimulated glands and nerves to produce a trance. Then he guided us to whirl like dervishes unto ecstasy. To top that, he'd blow a conch, punctuating our bliss with an otherworldly battle cry. His classes were strange, but he was able to make esoteric teachings feel accessible to modern California yoga crowd. He had secured a worldwide following, and I felt honored to write for him. Plus, as an ethnic Indian, he claimed to teach the most authentic ancient expression of yoga. One of my projects was to help him propagate his teachings through a blog. Over a span of 9 months, I posted weekly on this blog. One post even went viral. It was a memorial to a beloved Sikh sage, Baba Pala Singh, who had worked his whole life to rescue cows from slaughter. When the sage died, cows wept. The image of a brown cow with streaks of tears from its soulful eyes attracted web page hits. Eventually, when this saffron-robed yogi learned that I could not follow him on his yearly pilgrimages to India, he stopped communicating with me. But I only guess this is why he didn't need my writing services anymore. Were trips to India the test of my devotion? Was I awkward because I'm a woman? Had I offended him with American ways? As a sevadar, had I failed? One day, months after my work for him ended, I discovered that the blog I had so lovingly crafted and had turned into a pornography website. On impulse, I made the mistake of reaching out to the yogi. I asked him if perhaps he had forgotten to make the annual payment for the blog space subscription and domain name. To my surprise, the yogi held me fully responsible. I tried to explain that I had nothing to do with pornography. I tried to explain how he might go about fixing the problem. He ignored me. Weeks passed and I heard nothing from him. One day in August 2019, he reached out with a strange email message. He said, Himalayan sages visited me while I was deep in meditation. They proclaimed a curse. In 6 months, anyone responsible for that blog turning to porn will lose a family member to untimely death. Cursed? It felt so old-fashioned, so childish, like a challenge to Harry Potter. After pronouncing the curse, he made a request that out of the compassion in my heart, won't I please take down that porn site? I wrote back one last time to make it clear I was not involved with porn, and the problem would have been avoided if he paid his bills on time. I made my own request that he never contact me again, adding, I don't believe your curse. Within 6 months, no one passed away in my family. However, the world had entered a pandemic. I couldn't help but worry. Were the yogi's curse and this awful pandemic somehow related? This haunted me. I considered that he had cursed anyone responsible for the blog turning to porn. Were the families of those dying in the pandemic somehow culpable in the domain name heist of the blog? This was absurd, but that's how the curse had its hold on my psyche. Was it possible the yogi misunderstood the message he'd received in meditation? How had my innocent involvement as a sevadar, a volunteer writer, writing from my heart with the intention to serve, How had this ended in a curse? My continuing studies of the yoga tradition reveal that throughout history, householders feared yogic curses. There's a great book by David Gordon White called Sinister Yogis. The Indian tradition is full of stories featuring spiritual adepts pronouncing curses. Shiva cursed Brahma, Gautama cursed Indra, Sukha's son cursed King Pirkirsit, and more. Be that as it may, I still resist believing in curses. And even more, I want to avoid blaming the pandemic on a curse. What I do want to contemplate here is that the yogi's words had a hurtful impression on me, and it worried me to think he might have what is called Vak Siddhi. Vak Siddhi is the ability to make words manifest reality. Sad over my quandary, I sought advice from 4 women that I meet with on Saturday mornings. We call ourselves the Dream Team. We practice meditation together and then talk about burdens we wish to unload from our hearts. I ask them, I wonder if Vak Siddhi is not limited to yogis. I wonder if humanity as a collective consciousness in the form of social media platforms has a similar power of Vak Siddhi. Do words we use on social media have the power of manifestation? My intuition senses they do. I wish that I could gently propose an experiment. When we want our social media posts to be loved and shared widely, can we please abandon the word viral? Would it be better to use the word fruitful? If I'm reaching out to the wide world with a message I wish to share honestly, I don't want the message to go viral. I want this message to go. In a world of search engine optimization, but look, now we have a virus. My dream team agreed my point was insightful. I ended my rally against the word viral by crying on their virtual shoulders about my woes related to the curse of the pornographic yoga blog. We agreed that might make a really perverted Nancy Drew mystery title for adults, of course. But with these kind women listening to me, I felt welcome to share another story that illustrated the point about media Vak Siddhi. In the United States, during the presidential campaign season 2016, the media repeated Donald Rump's name over and over. His name, too repetitive, the way a yogi chants a mantra. Knowing the power of mantras, that mantras have the ability to give a yogi Vak Siddhi, I was afraid the media's repetition of his name was not a good sign. I made a concerted effort never to repeat his name aloud and told my friends about my concern. I requested anyone who would listen to please stop repeating his name so often because I sensed that the continuing resonance of his name was having a mystical power of manifestation in the subtle realm. Please, I humbly beg, the universe is sensitive, not rational. I also complained, but who wants to listen to an intuitive, middle-aged, queer female content writer and mother of 2 who's seeking employment? My dream team assured me, we do. Feeling heard makes me want to end here with a hopeful example. In 2001, I lived in New York City, up near Columbia University. Our neighbor was an old man, a retired jazz musician. He seemed to embrace his old age like it gave him permission to be mystical. He would stand on the corner of Amsterdam Avenue and 106th Street and repeat loudly over and over, Jesus, Jesus, hallelujah, hallelujah. For hours he'd stand there rocking back and forth and repeating the mantra. Yes, he's got the right idea. In the yogic text, Shiva Sutras, opening 3, verse 2, says Chittam Mantrika, which means the mind is a mantra. This urges me to beware of the relationship between words, thoughts that we repeat, and life circumstances. So I wish to see social media go fruitful. And what if the fruits of our actions end in curses? I don't have a satisfying answer for this. But guess what? I discovered a few weeks ago. The Yogi's blog is back online with a different URL. Behold, all may not be lost. There's hope. And may all hope go fruitful.